Welcome to Real Estate U with Lettiann.
Welcome back to our podcast, Season 2 of Real Estate U with Lettiann. And today I'm gratefully sitting with local builder Kelly Babb of KC Builders and Design. Welcome, Kelly.
Well, thank you for having me.
So delighted that you're here. So we're going to talk about the building process. So Kelly, you're celebrating 24 years in the business here, local Kansas City metropolitan builder. Do you build in both Kansas and Missouri, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
And Lake of the Ozarks.
Kansas and Missouri and the Lake of the Ozarks, and also doing remodeling and basement finishes and all that fine stuff as well, and we'll get into that. So we're going to talk about your company, KC Builders and Design, as well as what you do and how much goes into the building process, but perhaps we start with the basics.
Okay.
Well, there's rural versus subdivision. So, and you and I both deal with new construction. You far more than I. However, I'm somewhat savvy in new home construction. So when you start talking to someone, they have the ability to purchase a spec home, and we'll let you tell us what a speculative home is versus a custom build job. And you're a custom builder.
Correct.
So there's so many things to talk about. I hope we can get it all in the 19 minutes that are left. So there's custom builders. There's production builders.
Correct.
There are spec homes. There are custom build jobs. There is rural property, and then there's subdivision property, and each of those has a different definition.
Correct.
Right. So tell us about the process.
Most of our projects are in residential communities. When you're in a residential community, you're very restricted on how the house is built. You've got to go by subdivision requirements. It's a good thing. Property values are protected that way. That's probably where 80% of our business is. The estate lots or the rural areas, you've got bigger land, you've got more flexibility on things you can do, not as many restrictions. So, and I love doing those. It's not as restrictive because you're not on top of each other. You've got some more flexibility if you hit rock instead of having to hammer it down. So your rooftops will match in a subdivision. You don't have to do that in a rural setting.
Move the house.
You can just pull the house up.
Yeah.
Because you've got room to where you can grade it out. So they both have their advantages and disadvantages. But the rural, I have more fun with those because we can do a lot of things that we couldn't do in a regular subdivision.
So it's always what the client is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So,
exactly.
And what their needs are, what their wants are, and all of that stuff. And wouldn't you agree that each of these topics, whether, subdivision and rural or spec home or build, custom build job, each of these could be an episode to talk about.
Yes.
So we can't even, we're just scratching the surface.
Right.
So, you're able to reach Kelly and his staff at their email, probably listed below here, kcbuildersanddesign.com, kcbuildersanddesign.com. So reach out to the folks there to answer any questions. If you're considering the building process, they can talk with you about that. I'm happy to talk with you about the building process because, as Kelly will tell you, he would strongly recommend being represented, having an agent involved. And keep going. So typically in a subdivision, there is a real estate marketing broker already marketing the community.
Correct.
So that agent represents the builder automatically. So again, so much to tell everyone. I'm just going to let you tell us what you want everyone to know about the building process in your company.
Well, if you're going to custom build, first thing you need to do is you need to figure out where you want to build. Once you get that established, you need to reserve a lot. So that's kind of step one. When you reserve a lot, they require a minimal down payment that's fully refundable. What that does is buys us time to figure out the next step, which is figuring out what plan we're going to put on. A 2-story, reverse, a ranch, whatever your case may be. Then let's get if it's one of our existing plans with some changes, which we encourage.
Custom builder, folks. That's different. Yeah. Again, difference between custom versus production. But again, we can answer those questions later. for you.
And so first thing, reserve a lot. Second thing, let's figure out a plan. And then once we figure out what changes you want to do, we price it out. Usually we can price that out in a few days. If those two things are all favorable, we get moving forward. We need a bank pre-approval letter and then a contract. So 5 pretty simple things. It's a fairly painless process. So the hardest part would probably be, what all you're wanting to put in the house when we're pricing it up front. But the same house in a subdivision, and let's just say it's $400,000. If we're going to put that house on 5 acres out in Shawnee, there's going to be additional costs that would go on to that, but same thing, we would do the pricing for that if you're on a septic system, or if your house sits a foot off a mile off the main street. There's going to be some additional costs there, longer driveway, longer sewer or water if that's the case. So just other things to look at, but it's a fairly simple process.
And the beauty of a custom builder like Kelly's company is the fact that you can move walls. You can work all of that out in advance and then have the product that you want moving forward.
Yes.
Whereas a production builder, you're very limited if you're even able to make any changes whatsoever, because they're a production builder. That's the carpet you get. Those are the light fixtures you get. You can't change anything. You can't move walls. That's why maybe it's more cost effective, but you don't have the control or the ability to change.
Correct. That's on the production builders. That's not their scope of work. They're on a schedule. They've got to make that schedule. And it moves right along, where we're not that, and we're a smaller group where we can give people the attention so they can make the changes they want and build exactly what they want.
Kelly, when people come to me and ask questions, or maybe they're considering or really wanting to dive into new construction, I strongly encourage them to interview 3 builders.
Yes,
and
I
they
agree
say,
with that.
well, why 3? I said, well, 5's too many, 3's just right. Because you're literally going to be married to the builder for at least a year from the time you interview. So you want to be sure the personality type is right, that you're feeling comfortable as a consumer. Wow, this guy's really going to get me where I want to go. And would you agree?
Very much. If it's a toxic relationship after the first meeting, imagine what it would be like after 12 months.
Right, and I've seen those. I mean, they're out there.
It's got to be a good fit. Yeah. And what I recommend is, do homework on your builders. Go to jococourts.org. And that in itself will tell you something. Hopefully when you get there, you won't see, nothing will pop up. If you got page after page after page of, items, run. That's telling you there's a history. And we'll almost interview clients as well, just to make sure it's a good fit. If we're able to, one, communicate, you can't over-communicate in this business. And when somebody's describing a change that they want to make on one of my plans, we always have a preliminary done to make sure that I've communicated with the architect the changes we're going to make sure I'm hearing that client correctly. And if it's wrong, we go back as many times as we need to until we get it the way it's supposed to be.
Communication is key, especially when building a house. Especially,
yes.
I didn't want that light fixture. Yeah, you ordered it.
Well, what we try and do is have people sign off on light fixtures, paint colors, stain colors. When we do when you buy one of our houses, whether it's one of our existing homes, which is a spec home, or if we start from scratch, you're going to meet with almost all the vendors, and you will sign off on the cabinet drawings, your tile, carpet, hardwood selections, so to hopefully minimize any surprises. And if there is a surprise, we figure out what the problem is and we resolve it and move on. This is supposed to be fun. So the more upfront legwork you do, the easier it down the final stretch.
So just a few things. I've always talked about, especially on this podcast, how buying and selling, if you're a seller or a buyer, it's an emotional roller coaster ride. Well, let's ramp that up by 100 times if it's a custom build.
It can be.
It can be.
It
right.
can
I mean, because
be.
there's a lot more dynamics involved. I encourage people, if they're like, we're thinking maybe in 2 years we're gonna find a property and build. I suggest to them, go out on the Parade of Homes. Go on the Parade of Homes, which in Kansas City, that's twice a year in the springtime and the fall. And look at the craftsmanship, look at the workmanship, look at the style of the home, and start picking, start dialing in your builders that you might want to interview at that time. So then you're seeing their work. So it's a beautiful time to go out and see local builders and their product.
Right. And we do that just to make sure we're staying up with the current trends. And what I was talking about previously, and I got sidetracked, whenever you buy one of our homes, you get a decorator. And she is amazing. And you'll meet with her several times and to get the house just right. So if you're wanting to match drapery to whatever, bring in a sample of that when you're meeting with her, and they can paint, or they can match, all the colors with that. But that's a service that's, included in our build jobs and our spec homes. But it makes the decision making just a little bit easier. When I built my own house, there was a couple areas that were important to me. Secondary bathrooms, not a big deal for me, so I just let my decorator make all the selections on that because we've had really good luck with her and I trust her. But a lot of people want to, specialize each and every room. You can do that too.
Another frequently asked question, how long is the building process?
We tell everybody 7 months from the time we get the blueprints back. If we had to, customize that, we tend to beat that time frame, but I'd rather undercommit and over-deliver. So I'd rather tell them 7 months, it comes in at 6, rather than tell you 7, it comes in at 12. I've only missed 3 closings in 24 years, and I take that personally when we don't make a closing. So we stay on top of that, and that last 30 days can get pretty stressful, and a lot of people in the house buttoning it up, but we usually get it done.
That's awesome. And people are often concerned about the weather, and I tell them it all works out.
Well,
we can't,
normally
we
the
can't
build
predict
should be
it.
6, so that's why I do that extra month in there.
And sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I wanted to talk about pricing. Sorry, I wanted to use initially started to say, of course, if you are building a subdivision, you're going to have community requirements along with some design and requirements for that community. So often they call it the community. What's the community package? But that leads us back to a builder's base price, because people are like, well, what's this house actually going to cost me? And if they're searching online or shopping online for local builders, and they start to look at some of their base prices, please, I think maybe you agree, you're not often comparing apples to apples.
Correct.
From builder to builder.
That's correct.
Okay.
So in neighborhoods, like some, Rod Rock neighborhoods we're building in, landscaping may be $2,500. So
that's an allowance.
An allowance.
Right.
You can spend $20,000, but you have to spend at least $2,500. Sprinkler system, some subdivision require it, some doesn't. So when you're looking at a builder's base price, you've got to figure out if those items are part of it or if it's on top of that. What we do in our base prices, we do high efficiency HVAC, hot water tanks. We do low E glass. We do Anderson windows. These are all part of our base price. So if you look at our base price, then one of our competitors, that plays a role in it. If you want those same items, we screw all of our floors down.
People don't screw their floors down, Kelly?
I do. Squeaks drive me crazy.
Yeah,
and so
my husband too.
You have to look at what's included very closely. Don't be sold on that entry-level base price, because by the time you're all said and done, you could be 30, 50 grand over. So you have to do your homework when it comes to that.
And dialing in that handful of builders to interview, it's really worth a meeting.
Very
And
much.
what I tell people is, I can connect you with a builder.
Mm-hmm.
It's no obligation. If you have questions about their homes, they're welcome. I mean, is that true?
Very true.
Of course. You want to have a consultation with them. Just don't, you may want to just shop online to start, but when you dial in your builders, meet them in person, set up an appointment, ask them questions. Oh, do you have a high efficiency furnace package?
Right.
And most base prices don't include a walkout package. Most base prices don't include stucco. So if you're looking to build a home in a subdivision that requires that, and you're purchasing a walkout lot, you're likely going to add about 20 grand onto your base price. So it's worth having a conversation, whether with Kelly or myself or someone else who's very savvy in the new homes business. Because it's a process.
It is.
And it takes time, and you really don't want to rush into it because then you're going to have regrets.
Sure.
So my producer's telling me we have about 3 minutes. What else do we want to tell everyone, Kelly, about the building process and about your business, KC Builders and Design?
What we do when we build a house is we have a portal. We have our clients set
Online
up
portal.
on.
Online
Yes.
portal. Okay.
And it's a software
Construction.
program we use. It's called Builder Trend.
Builder Trend.
And so what that will do is we've got a template of our build schedule. The clients will have access to the next 30 days, what's on the schedule. If we have a month of rain, all I got to do is click and drag to offset those days, so I'm not having to rebuild the schedule. The clients have access to that. We take photos throughout the time. We upload that, and that tells us where every outlet is, where every light switch is. In the event when we're finishing up, we can't get an outlet to work, we can go and look at those pictures and tell, oh, that got covered up with the sheetrockers. But the homeowners will make all their selections on Builder Trend, and that's where everything's documented. Mm-hmm. It's been a wonderful tool. Everybody loves it. Change orders. If you decide halfway through the building process you want to double the size of your deck, and I'm just using that as a weird example, we can do all that online. You can pay online, you can pay the vendor direct, or you can pay us, whatever the case may be. But it keeps the consumer informed. They get copies of our inspection tickets, so they can see items when we called for. There's so many inspections when building a house.
Except at the Ozarks.
Yes.
Except at the Lake of the Ozarks.
But so the homeowner knows exactly what we've been doing, and they're in the loop every step of the way.
Technology is wonderful, and they feel really a part of it, because they don't necessarily see you or your staff, but they're like, oh, honey, look, here's what happened today at our house. Mm-hmm. They feel very involved. I think that's beautiful.
Well, where we're different than most is you will always get somebody when you call. They'll have my phone number. They'll have my office number. They'll have my office manager's phone number. They will always be able to reach us. And we've got more comments on that it's just easy to work with us.
And we have time for just one last question. Why would you suggest new home construction over resale?
Right now, especially with inventories being record low, the sales prices of existing homes is getting so high, and so that threshold between resale and new is fairly minimal now. So you're going to probably overpay for a resale house or be on the top end, where your new construction prices keep going up. And so when you get locked in on that, then the reproduce that new house is going to be $50,000-$70,000 more than when you bought it. That's equity in your pocket.
So now is the time.
Now is the time. And they just dropped the rates a half point, and they're talking about another quarter, I think, in 2 weeks. So it is now financially wise to do this.
That's great. Kelly, thank you so much for this information. I think we could talk for another hour. So Kelly Babb, with the owner of KC Builders and Design. You can contact Kelly below or visit their website. And we thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions about new construction, we're happy to help you. We'll see you again soon.